Hello and good evening. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Please let me know if you can hear me. So let me know, please. Good evening. Hello. Better. Good evening. Better, please. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Please let me know if you can hear me, okay? So we can start. We can just go straight into our tutorial for today. So let me know, please. Just type it on the comment section that you can hear me. Okay, thank you so much, Better. Thank you for confirming. So, guys, you're welcome to another tutorial for today to our pattern drafting class. So, guys, thank you so much, Kate. Thank you so much, Kate Matthew. I thank you and you're welcome. Okay, so please let me know, guys, where you're watching me from. I would appreciate that. May, thank you so much. You can hear me. Thank you for confirming. So, guys, in today's tutorial, in today's class, I'm going to be showing you guys how to, okay, here's the picture, how to draft a Victorian Buster. Thank you so much. Success. Okay, Kate, you're watching from Kano. Wow. So this is what we're going to learn how to cut today, okay? So it is a simple process. It's a simple tutorial. So like I said, those of you that don't know how to draft patterns, thank you so much. Better, you're watching from South Africa. That don't know how to draft pattern, once you tune into my live streams, you are going to learn how to draft beautiful pieces, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm just trying to like adjust my camera so to make sure that, okay, thank you so much, Esther, you're welcome. To make sure that we can see the full table, okay? Yes, I think it's okay. I'm just trying to, yes. I want all the parts. Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. You're welcome. So what we're going to do now, we're going to start watching. Okay, May, you're watching from H. Thank you so much. We're going to draft the back pattern first. For those of you, if you have been following me here, you will notice that we normally draft our back piece first and then we'll go to the front piece. Okay. So before we continue, first of all, I want to put a straight line here. So this straight line that I'm adding here is going to serve as our start line. And then the measurement that we're going to be using, hello, good evening, Mazuba, you're welcome. So the measurements that we're going to be using, the bust circumference, today we're going to be doing a plus size. So the bust is going to be 40, and then the under bust that we're going to use is 32, and then the waist is 36, and then the hip, that's like the half cut, is going to be 42. So these are the measurements we are going to use for our today's class, okay? So thank you so much. Let me just know where you're watching me from. Faith, thank you. Thank you. Awa, you're watching from the US. Fola, thank you so much. So you guys should just be dropping. Once I am done, I am going to come back and read all of your comments, all of your greetings. I'll greet you guys back. Okay, so today we're drafting for a plus size, okay? Yes, so in this live stream, I'm going to be mixing them. We'll draft some for small size, medium size, and then plus size. So today is for a plus size. So the first point we're going to be marking on the paper when drafting a pattern like this, you need a bust point. So that bust point is called the nipple point. That's where the nipple is. So for today, we're going to mark 11-inch. So that's from the shoulder. So this first line is serving as our shoulder line, okay? So this is our bust point line, which is 11. And then the under bust line is going to be 14, okay? It's 14. So when doing plus size patterns also, you could get 12 inches and 15 inches also. That's still okay for a plus size. Even this bust that is 40, there are some clients that their bust point might be 12 and then the under bust will be 15, so it still works that way. And then the next length we are going to mark after the under bust line is our waistline, which is like the half cut. That's where it got to. So that's 19 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to add 1 inch as allowance. So all of these lines I am going to mark. I'll just connect them and then we label them, and then we will start marking our piece. Okay, so I'll just mark them like this, and then I'll mark this. Okay, so we have our bust point line. This is our bust point. That's from shoulder to the bust point 11. From shoulder to the under bust is 14. So this is under bust. From shoulder to the half cut, which we also, you can also call this waist, is 19 waist. And then this is the full length or allowance. Okay, so these are all of the lines. So the next measurement we're going to add for this, we're going to add the shoulder measurement. So you can see the strap is it is actually an inbuilt strap. Okay, so the shoulder measurement we're going to be using 15. So you divide 15 into 2, you're going to have 7.5. So when you have 7.5, you just take a point that way, and then you can add 1 inch or half of an inch to that point. So the next thing you are going to do from that point, you are going to come down by 1 inch like this. Just take a point, and then from that point, you are going to connect that point. Just connect that into that shoulder line. So this is will serve as our shoulder slope. So the next measurement you want to add now is your round sleeve measurement. So for round sleeve, you have different ways of measuring your round sleeve. You can divide your bust circumference into 6 and then add 1.5, or you can just take your tape around your armpits like this and then you divide that into 2. Okay, so after that I am going to have 8 inches for mine, so you can do yours, and then I will connect that 8 inches this way and then just bring it out like this. Okay, so the next thing I am going to do after marking that 8 inches, I'll just get the midpoint, which is 4 inches, and then from that 4 inches I am going to just give this a nice curve like this. That's like, I'll just connect this. Okay, my hand got, so I'll just connect it like this. Just imagine. Try. I'll not be able to do artist work. So the next thing we are going to mark now, we're going to take out our full body measurement. So now the full body measurement, our bust measurement is 40 inches. Okay, before then, let's take out our dart. So for the dart, we're using our nipple to nipple measurement, which is also called, professionally, it's called a bust pan. And it is 9 inches. That's from one nipple to the other. It is 9 inch. So you divide that into 2, and then you are going to have 4.5. So this 4.5, I am just going to mark that 4.5 across all of these lines, and then I will just mark it with a straight ruler. So the essence of doing this is because we want to take out our dart. So that is why we are doing this. So the next thing, and the dart that I want to take out, I want to take out a dart of 1 inch. So that 1 inch, I'll take half inch to my right hand side and then half inch to my left hand side. So I'm just going to connect that to my bust point area like this, and then I will bring it down because my dart is going to run, and then I'll bring it down this way. Okay, so you can see, so this is my dart I am taking out. So the next measurement I am going to mark now, take out my full body measurement. So for the full body measurement, my bust measurement is, bust circumference is 40. So you divide 40 into 4, you are going to have 10. So you mark the 10 inch here, and then you are going to add allowance. So the allowance you're going to add, you are going to remember the 1 inch that we took out for that. Okay, so you place that back into your pattern, and then you can add like 1.5 inch or 1 or 2 inch allowance. I really don't like and advise 1 inch allowance, especially for people that are learning, that their hand is not too strong. I usually don't advise that, okay? So the next thing, I am going to come to my underbust measurement. Our underbust is 32. So I'll divide 32 into 4. I'm going to have 8 inches. And then I remember my 1 inch here. And then I'm going to add my stitching allowance also. So I'll mark it. So your stitching allowance, like I said, you can add 2 or 2.5 inches. And then for the waist, we're using 36. So when you divide 36 into 4, I'm going to have 9 inches. So this is 9 inches. And then my 1 inch for my allowance back into your pattern. And then you're going to mark your allowance. So for the allowance, you can mark 2 inch or 2.5 inches. So for this down part of our skirt, of our blouse, sorry, you are going to mark your waist measurement, or your hip measurements rather. So that's if you are making a full dress, that it will reach your waist area, okay? But if you are not making that, you can just ignore it, okay? So that's for that hip line measurement. But since this is like a half bodice, I really don't need that. So I'll just, the same measurement that I have here, I'll just bring it this way. And then when once I am done, I'll connect all of these lines together like this, okay? So you can see how beautiful this is. So the next thing we are going to do now for our top, we're going to come to the top part. If you see the straps are like cut together straps, okay? So you really need that. So the next thing we are going to mark here, we're going to mark the neckline. So if you notice, you can see that the neckline is a little bit deep. So we're going to use, I'll use 3.5 inches for the neckline. That's the neckline. So the depth of the back neckline, I am going to use at least 7 inches or 6 inches for the depth of the back neckline. So I'm just going to connect it this way, like this. Okay, so that's for the depth of the back neckline. So the next thing I am going to do now, I want to mark my straps. So to mark my straps, so from this point, I'm going to determine how wide do I want these straps to be, okay? So it depends on how wide it is. So I'm going to use 2 inches. 2 inches is okay, or you can use 2.5 if you, so that after sewing it will be reduced to like 2 inch or 1.5 inch. So I'll mark the 2 inches like that. So once I mark that 2 inches like that, the next thing I am going to just use my dotted lines like this. I'll use my dotted lines. I'll mark it to this point. So because I want to mark this strap, I'm going to create this my chest line now. So that's, I'm going to mark this line. I'll just bring out that chest line point like this. So I need it now because I need it to terminate at that point, okay? So it's not going to just be hanging like that. So you need it at that point, okay? So the next thing I am going to do, I am going to mark this. If you notice, the straps are not really that curvy. So I'm just looking for like the best way to like mark those straps. So you can see what we have. So after everything, this is what we have for our back piece. So now we're going to cut it out, and then let's see how the straps, how they look like, okay? So my neckline should have been, it should be more rounded. At this point, I'm just trying to curve it nicely. So you can see how the back piece looks like. So for this, like I normally advise as a beginner, if you want to do this, you can decide not to do a cut together strap. You can decide to cut off your strap and then attach it. So that will help you to like adjust it however you want. It will be much easier for you than doing a cut together strap as a beginner. But if you already know how to sew, you can go ahead with this cut together strap. It's still going to be perfect, okay? All right, so that's for the back piece. The next thing we're going to do now, we're going to mark out our front piece, okay? So in marking out our front piece, we're going to go just mark those same lines. Remember the lines that we added initially to our piece, to our pattern paper, sorry. So that's the first line, which will serve as the shoulder line. And then the next line I am going to mark is our bust point line, which is 11 inches. And then the under bust is 14. And then the waist, the half cut, we're using 19 inches. So I'm going to add extra 1 inch because I'll take out a bust dart from this pattern. So I'll add just 1 inch or 1.5 inch to read. So it depends on how many inches. Since it is a plus size, I'll just add, I'm just trying to think, one or two. Okay, let me just add one first. But from allowance, I'll know if I will take out more. And then I am going to add my stitching allowance now, okay? So if you notice now, automatically the front pattern is longer than the back because we are going to take out a bust dart from it, okay? So I'm connecting all of the lines together this way. So these are all of my lines. So this is my shoulder line, this is my bust point line, this is the under bust, this is the waist, and then this is the full length, okay? So the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to mark our shoulder measurement. So our measurements, these are the measurements we used earlier. So the next thing now, we're going to mark out our measurements. So for the measurement, I'm just thinking, no. So the next thing we're going to do now, let's take out our shoulder measurement, which is 15 inches. 15 divided by 2, you have 7.5. I'll add half of an inch to it for allowance. And then from this point, I'm going to mark 1 inch this way. And then after marking that 1 inch, so please, if you have questions, you can drop your questions. So when I'm done, I'll go over the chart and then read everything, okay? So you connect that to your shoulder line. And then from this point, we're going to mark half of our armhole, just like I explained earlier, how to get that armhole. And then I'll mark it this way. And then this 8 inches line, automatically, I'll use it as my chest line, okay? So after marking this chest line, the next thing I want to mark my armhole, okay? So for the armhole, I'll take half of this point, okay? I'll just take half of this point, and from that point, I'll come out by like a quarter of an inch, and then I would just use this to like connect my armhole point. Okay, so you can see how easy this is. The next thing now, we're going to create our bustier. So we're going to create our bustier right now. So the next thing, we'll come to this down part, and then we're going to mark our darts, okay? So for the darts that we're going to use 4.5, which is our bust span, which is 9, and then that's 4.5. I'm just going to mark it across all of my lines. Okay, so once I finish marking it across all of my lines, I am going to connect that with a straight ruler this way. So can you see? After connecting it with a straight ruler, the next thing I am going to do now, I'm going to create out my bust here. So in order for me to create out my bust here, here's what I am going to do. I'm going to come to this point like this. Now I want to take out my dart. So for my dart, I'm going to take my dart to one side. So the dart intake that I'm going to use, I'll use 2 inches. I'll mark the 2 inches here. And then from that 2 inches, I'm just going to connect that 2 inches. I'll connect it to this point like this. I'll connect it to that point like that. So after connecting it to that point, the next thing I am going to come to the top part of my pattern this way. Okay, so I want to take out my neckline. So that's the width of my neckline. And then after marking the width of my neckline, the next thing I will mark the depth of the neckline. Okay, so for the depth of the neckline, I am going to, so I'm just trying to take a good look at the picture again. For the depth of the neckline, I'm going to use 6 inches. So that's the 6 inches. So that's 6 inches. I'll just connect, I'll create a line like this so that I will know. So that's 6 inches. The next thing I am going to do, I'm going to extend this to that point. Okay. So, but before then, I am going to connect that neckline. So that neckline, I'll use my pattern curve like this. I'll connect that neckline that way. So after connecting that neckline that way, the next thing I am going to do now at this point, so this down part of my neckline, this is going to look like a V. But before then, let's continue. I'll come back to the neckline. So before then, I'm going to check what I have here, and then I'll divide that into 2. Okay, so once I divide that into 2, I have about 4.5 here. So I'll divide that into 2. That is going to serve as the shoulder dart. So I'll connect that dart to this point like this. So once I connect it to this point, this part, I am going to blend it so that it's not looking straight. Let it be round. Okay, so you can see. So before I open that, I'm going to take out my dart from the side. I'll take out the side dart, which is like the bust dart. Okay. So from this point, I'm going to come down by my 2 inches. I'll mark the 2 inches here, and then I would connect the 2 inches. I'll connect it to this point like this. Okay. So the next thing here, I'm going to take out my full body measurement. Okay. So I'll take out my full body measurement. So the bust is 40. 40 divided by 4, I have 10 inches. So I'm going to add enough allowance to this. Okay. So why am I doing that? So that at the time I work on this part, I will not get any truncating piece. Okay, so the same thing that I have here, I'll just bring it here. And then for the under bust measurement, our under bust is 32. So when you divide 32 into 4, we're going to have 8. And then remember our 2 inch for that. You bring that back into your pattern and then add your stitching allowance. So I'll mark it that way, and then I would connect it like this. The next thing I want to add now, I want to add my waist measurement, which is 36. 36 divided by 4, I have 9 inches. So I'll place it here like this. This is 9 inches. And then remember my 2 inch dart. Bring that back into your pattern and then add your stitching allowance. Okay. And then for this down part, I have 42. That's for the waist. So 42, that's the like the full length. Okay. So that's 42. 42 divide by 4. You add it, and then remember your 2 inches for your dart. You bring that back into your pattern, and then you add your stitching allowance. Okay. So after everything, I am going to mark this like this. So the next thing I am going to do now, from this point now, I want to mark my bust dart. Okay. So like I told you earlier on, for that bust dart, I am going to, from this point, from my bust point, initially I used 1 inch, but since I have extra allowance, I'm going to take out like a 2 inch from that bust dart. So because I was contemplating, I was not very sure. So I'll mark it from that point like that, and then I'll connect that into, I'll just connect it, let it hit the bust point like this, okay? Yes, let it hit that bust point. So after hitting that bust point, the next thing we are going to do, so after cutting, we're still going to work on the neckline like I told you guys. So after cutting, the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to cut out this piece, okay? Because I want to open the shoulder dart. I'll close the side dart and then open the shoulder dart. So before I do that, let me just cut off. So you can see as I'm cutting, I just left a little bit because it's going to get truncated. So just note the way I am cutting my piece. Because of my strap, you see I did not cut out everything. Okay, so at this point now, the next thing I am going to do now, I'm going to open this part like this. And then I would open this also. So now, after opening this, what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to close it this way. So you see that truncating part that I was talking about, but because of I had extra here, that is going to cover up. So I'll just get my paper tape. Is this the paper tape? Probably sellotape. And just, so if you have questions, like I said, you can drop your questions, please. This sellotape, you can do somebody. So I'm just going to join it together so you can see what I am doing. So just tape it back together like that, and then I'll cut off the excess, okay? So after cutting this off now, this is now closed. So I have this side now. So the next thing I am going to do now, at this point now, I am going to cut. So before I cut, I can decide to create out my strap from here, or I can just cut off from this shoulder dart. I'll just cut this hole off and then work on my neckline, okay? So from that point, I'll just take this off now because I really don't need it. After taking that off, the next thing now, I want to work on the neckline. So in order for me to work on the neckline, I am going to create like a sweetheart, a little bit of a sweetheart, not very sweetheart. It's not, is this sweetheart or is this self? So from this point, remember I used 6 inches initially. That's for this line like this. So from that 6 inches, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, okay? So after marking that point, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just create like a V because that is actually like a V, okay? So I'll just create that into that point like that, okay? So after creating that, the next thing now, I am going to create my strap. So for the strap, remember we used 2 inches initially. So you can see we have almost 2 inches here like this. So I am going to just leave that point that way. So this is just like a little bit of cut that I'm going to cut. So from that 2 inch point, so when I get to this down part from here, I'm going to mark that same 2 inch point like this. So from that point like this, I will just use my dotted lines like this because obviously it's going to strap, it's going to form into that way. So the next thing now, I am going to mark that point like that. So once I get to this point like this, I'm going to blend this into, I'm going to blend that into my chest line. So you can see what I'm trying to do. So at this point, I'm just trying to be careful, okay? So I'll blend that into that point. So when I'm cutting now, I'm not going to, this intake here, I'm not going to cut it off. You know, this part that we came in because of the front armhole, I'm going to ignore it. I'm not going to cut it. So I'll just cut my strap this way, okay? So now the neckline, so we have cut out the neckline. Before that, we are going to tighten this part a little bit, okay? So in order for us to tighten that part a little bit here, from this point, I'm going to come mark half of an inch here, and that half of an inch, I'm going to use my pattern curve. I'm going to blend that. You understand? So you need that. You need that blending, because if you do not blend it, that part is going to be gaping. Okay. So you blend that back into your pattern. After blending that back into your pattern, for the side, of your dress, you are going to come back to this point like this, and then you are going to divide what you have here into two. So when you divide that into two, you are going to mark it, and then you are going to use your pattern curve. Sorry, not pattern curve. You are going to use your ruler to mark it this way. Okay. So for this, you can mark it however you want to mark it. So we're not doing any tightening there at that point, okay? So after marking, the next thing that we're going to cut all of this out. So first of all, we're going to cut our neck, okay? So after cutting the neckline, the next thing we are going to cut out our strap. So just, even me, I'm trying to be very careful. So we'll cut out our straps like this. Just watch. So this straight line is what I am going to follow like this. So like I said, for beginners, don't I will advise you, don't do a cut together, don't do a cut together strap. Okay, so I find out that my neckline, I need to extend it up to that chest line area. So I'm just going to blend it into that chest line area. So in order for me to be able to cut that pattern open nicely, so I'll blend that into that chest line area, and then now I'll be able to cut. So when cutting this part, you need to be very careful so you don't separate it, okay? You need to be very careful. So for this part, you have to be careful so you don't, because your bust dart is closed, so you have to be very careful. You have to tape it down, or else you are going to go and cut the wrong thing. And if you do that, it's not going to be nice. So for the neckline, so you can come down how deep, depends on how deep you want. You can come down as much as you want. So this part, I'm going to tape this part down because I have a pointy edge which I don't want in my pattern. I'm going to tape that down. So I'll tape it down. So when I tape it down now, I will now be able to blend. Can you see? I'll now be able to blend my pattern nicely. So at the end of the day, this is what I am going to have for my bustier. So you see that tightening there, and then you see this part. So that is that. So we are done with it. So like I said, this strap, as a beginner, I will not advise you, just After drafting it like this, just cut the strap off. You understand? When you cut the strap off after sewing, attach it from the top. It will be much easier for you. Okay. All right. So thank you so much. Can you guys see what? So I'm just trying to adjust my camera. So guys, you people should give this video a thumbs up. Thank you so much, all of you that tuned in to our tutorial. I'm trying to adjust it so I'll be able to read all my comments. Okay. So all of you that tuned in today, thank you so much. So let me just go back. That's it. Thank you so much. Good evening. You're watching from Ghana. Okay, so let's come again. Okay. Success. Okay, thank you. So you can hear me. Kate, you're watching from Kano. Thank you so much. Betsa, you're watching from South Africa. Esther, hi. That's it. Teresa, good evening. You're watching from Germany. Thank you so much for joining. May Ellen, you're watching from Port Harcourt. God bless you. Mazube, thank you. Hello, Sewing family. Good day, ma'am. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much. Awa, thank you. Bimara, thank you so much. I am watching from Kaduna. Wow, that's beautiful. Faith Oguche, you're watching from Nasarawa. Wow, thank you so much. Awa, you're watching from the US. Thank you so much. Fola, you're watching from Abulegba. Abulegba, thank you so much. Wow, see all these beautiful people. Thank you so much. Bukola, you're watching from Ibadan. Thank you so much. Man, Mani, Mami, you're watching from Ghana. Feyi, hi. Christiana, thank you. You're watching from Lagos. And Esther, you're watching from the US. Thank you so much, guys. All of you that tuned in today, you guys are so sweet. You guys are so sweet. I appreciate each and every one of you. All of you that drop comments on me, thank you so much. Those of you that liked the video, thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Like I said, let me raise this camera. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you. So I'll see you guys tomorrow by God's grace. Yes, tomorrow I'm going to try. Yesterday I was supposed to come up, but it happened, so I could not. But tomorrow by God's grace, okay? So, like I said, send in your pattern drafting to me on my YouTube, on my WhatsApp, and then I'll do well to help you guys draft them here on our live stream. So, thank you so much. God bless you all. Have a blessed day and a